And with me now on the program to discuss this and the other matters of the day, the newly appointed Parliamentary Secretary for Trade, Kelvin Thomson, and also Liberal MP Kelly O'Dwyer. Good morning to you both. It's good to see you.
Kelly.
Kelvin, on the trade issue, this is now your focus as the new Parliamentary Secretary. Do you see the benefits of developing Northern Australia? It seems to make a lot of economic sense beyond some of the specifics in this discussion paper. The idea, it's a good one, isn't it?
No, it isn't, Kieran. I certainly see that there are benefits in economic activity and prosperity in Northern Australia, but in relation to the proposal being talked about this morning, this is the latest in a long line of policy proposals from the Liberal Party which are uncosted. It took 500 years to uncover the body of Richard III, might take even longer to uncover a costed Liberal Party policy, and this is a proposal which would come with real costs. If you're going to relocate tens of thousands of people from Sydney and Melbourne or bring in thousands of foreign workers to increase the population in the way described, you have all the relocation costs, the travel allowance, the severance payments, the extra rent, the infrastructure costs.
But in general terms, the development of Northern Australia, you'd welcome that, wouldn't you?
Of course.
For the agriculture, for everything else.
Northern Australia is developing and is prospering, and the government is very committed to supporting that. But what we're seeing this morning is Gina Rinehart's idea of lower taxes and increased foreign workers for Northern Australia, which would come at the expense of people in Sydney and Melbourne who would end up paying for all that extra infrastructure.
Simon Benson's story in the Daily Telegraph, it included a PDF version of this draft discussion paper. It looks like it's been well thought out. It doesn't look like it's been thrown together. So Mr Abbott now playing it down, but is this something seriously being considered?
Well, first, Kieran, can I just respond, I suppose, to a couple of points that have been raised by Kelvin Thomson here, and congratulations on being promoted. Long overdue, no doubt. But I think, unfortunately, you've got to actually read the paper and understand it, because you've got a number of the facts completely wrong on this, and the government clearly wants to create a bit of a fear campaign, which is unjustified. The government has acknowledged, in your own words, that you think everything's fine in Northern Australia. You don't want to develop it. You don't want to see further economic potential. We actually do. We think that there is unlimited potential in Northern Australia, which is why we have been consulting very widely with stakeholders, with opinion makers and shapers up in the north, to try and understand better what more we can do to help grow our region, to get closer ties with Asia so we can optimise economic growth up there. Jobs, we think jobs are critically important.
Two different tax zones?
No, well, we have absolutely said we don't believe in zonal taxation. I mean, this is a fear campaign that's been created by the Labor Party. Completely wrong, of course.
It is included in this discussion paper.
What we have said is we would look at modest tax offsets which already exist for people who live in rural and regional Australia. There are not different income tax rates for different people around Australia. That is categorically wrong. It is deliberately tricky and misleading for the government to try and say so.
You get a better tax treatment under the coalition idea if you do move north, though. That's the bottom line.
Well, what we're saying is, if it is financially responsible to do so, we think that the current scheme of providing modest tax offsets for people who live in rural and regional Australia, where there is economic benefit for growing jobs, it is something that we would look at. Now, that is completely different. That's completely different, though, to different tax rates.
Kieran, Kelly hasn't dealt with the question of infrastructure provision. This would be a major matter. If you have thousands of foreign workers and thousands of public servants from Sydney and Melbourne to be relocated to Northern Australia, that would come at very substantial cost. The cost of road infrastructure, schools infrastructure, hospitals and the like. This is, again, an uncosted policy proposal.
So Kelvin wants to say everything's all right, that there needs to be no more sort of infrastructure spending in Northern Australia, that we shouldn't have any plan for the growth of Northern Australia. We think that's completely wrong. He wants to talk about uncosted policies and uncosted promises. The government themselves have got over $120 billion worth of uncosted promises.
So let's stick with this one, though. Let's just stick with this, because I want to drill down on it. is the suggestion that you would move thousands of workers, say, from Western Sydney, where there is a higher unemployment rate?
What we have done in this two-page document that you've referred to here is we've simply sought comment from people who actually have expertise in this area to get ideas. We actually think consultation's a good thing, unlike this government who actually just announces things. In fact, goes back on broken promises. We have delivered this paper to a number of people for their views and their input. Then we will release a discussion paper, and then we will finally release our policy proposal in advance of the next election. I mean, we actually think consultation is a good thing. I know the current government doesn't.
So why not have that debate?
We do need to have the debate, but the point is, if we're going to have a serious debate, the Liberal Party has to produce costings to go with it, so that people understand.
Costings for the NDIS and Gonski, which you say we have to wait for the budget.
People have to understand exactly what they are proposing and how they are going to fund it. This happens all too often. Kelly asked a question yesterday. Kelly asked a question yesterday about the budget surplus, but the fact is that every time the Liberal Party has something to say about taxes or about expenditure, it never comes in a costed way. The budget is not a magic pudding. It's not one of Norman Lindsay's magic puddings.
I would agree with you on that, and yet this government is pretending.
Let's hear Kelvin to finish. If we talk over each other, no one will understand a thing. Kelvin, please.
Thanks, Kieran. So what the Liberal Party has to do is to explain how much it believes these things will cost, and they will cost. There will be serious infrastructure costs associated with this proposal, and how they propose to fund it. That's the point here.
But Kelly's making the valid point that the budget is not clear, that the government hasn't said how it's going to pay for the massive investment in education and disabilities. So it is the pot calling the kettle black.
I am strongly supportive of the way.
This is a discussion paper. It's only that.
I am strongly supportive of the way in which the government's managed the budget. We've been able to manage the budget in a way which has caused interest rates to come down dramatically from the time the Liberals were in office. They're now 3%, where they were 6.75%. So an average family is paying $5,000 less each year in interest payments as a result of the way in which we've been able to manage the budget. So our budgetary strategy is sound.
Kelly, I want to ask you
quickly respond though to that.
Very quickly, but I want to ask you about the fact, if this is such a great initiative and idea, which you've advocated this morning, why is Tony Abbott so quickly out there this morning trying to back away from it? He said it was a draft paper. He said it a number of times.
He's putting it in context because, of course, we know the record of this current government is to create a fear campaign. They don't really like talking about policy ideas. They particularly don't like new ideas about creating stronger growth and economic potential in the north of Australia, because they say everything's all right. We don't need to worry about jobs. We don't need to actually worry about creating additional economic opportunities for Australians, not only in this generation, but for future generations. We think that the government actually needs to have a bit of vision about it.
This is a government with a better record of job creation, including in Northern Australia, than other governments around the world. The way in which we've managed the economy and job growth is the envy of other countries around the world.
Well, of course, this is one of the highest taxing governments. I mean, if you look at the total call on present and future taxpayers, this government, with their borrowings and their taxes and the dividends, it's more than 26% of GDP, which is the highest. That's the fact.
We'll probably get back to that after the break. A quick break, we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Tony Abbott. Your opinion counts, so my team has travelled throughout Australia listening to your concerns and your hopes. You've asked for a plan and we've consulted with the experts. The result is our plan to build a stronger 21st century Australia. Our plan will deliver 2 million more jobs over the next decade and better services for you and your family. How? By building a world-class 5-pillar economy, one that diversifies and builds on our strengths in manufacturing, agriculture, services and education, as well as mining. Our plan will deliver lower taxes and lower debt, and stronger borders where the boats are stopped. With your support, we will deliver a strong, diverse economy and a safe, secure Australia, so that every Australian can get a better future.
Download your copy of our plan today at realsolutions.org.au. Authorised B. Liberal Party, Canberra.
Short of cash? Need a loan till payday? For cash loans from $250 to $1,000, catch the Cash Train! Go online now to get a same-day cash loan. Cash Train! Whatever the reason, bills, rent, shopping, or just caught short. Cash Train! Speedy same-day loans paid directly into your bank account. Instant decision. No security needed. Poor credit? No worries. Catch the Cash Train! And get your cash today at cashtrain.com.au.
This week, only at The Good Guys. Buy a dishwasher over $700 to receive a bonus Jamie Oliver 56-piece cutlery set valued at $399. Hurry, must end Monday. Available in-store and online. Only at The Good Guys.
For healthy joints that ignore their age, choose a Nature's Own krill oil. Just one capsule a day helps with arthritis and joint health. Nature's Own. What does your body want?
I promise that whatever happens, I'll look after you.
You promise to be there for the ones you love most in the world, but life doesn't always go as planned. If anything were to happen to you, Insurance Line could help you keep that promise by leaving your family with life insurance. With a life insurance plan in place, your family could receive a tax-free payout from $100,000 right up to $1 million. Our life insurance is flexible, so you can choose the amount of cover that's right for you and your family. And our cover starts from as low as $2.95 a week, so it's affordable to protect your loved ones. And you can apply over the phone in minutes with no medical tests or forms to fill in. You'll also get a full 30-day money-back guarantee. Plus, call now and you'll also receive a free will kit, making it easier to leave your affairs in order. So make sure you keep your promises. Call Insurance Line on 13 13 38 and get life insurance today.
This is AM Agenda. With me this morning, Kelly O'Dwyer and Kelvin Thomson. Let's get on to the, related to what we were talking about before the break, paying for the government's commitments. Superannuation apparently is in Wayne Swan's sights. The government ruled out yesterday, the Prime Minister, taxing withdrawals, but now it looks like they're going to be looking at the super earnings of wealthy Australians. Does that sound about right?
I'm not aware of decisions that have been made, obviously. There are discussions going on about these things, but no decisions have been made, no announcements have been made. The reason we can have a discussion about superannuation, Kieran, is because the Labor Party has built superannuation in this country. We built universal superannuation. We now have workers have $1.5 trillion in superannuation accounts as a result of policy initiatives taken by the Labor Party over the years.
The Labor Party does have a good record in this area. What do you make of the idea of
Peter
taxing
Costello,
the earnings?
as Treasurer, actually simplified the superannuation scheme and encouraged Australians to contribute more to save for their own retirement. I mean, we were the ones who actually encouraged people to put more into their superannuation so that they would be self-sufficient in their retirement years. That is why he simplified it by saying that there should be no tax on the withdrawal at that appropriate time. Now, of course, the government flew the kite on this. The government actually tried to get their hands on this money, and we saw them unify. I mean, it's spectacular that they did it, but they unified everybody across the industry, including union funds. And this is the reason that they've actually acknowledged that they're not going to go ahead. But the government clearly wants to raid the retirement savings of Australians. They haven't ruled it out. We've just heard that again from Kelvin Thomson today. They refuse to rule it out. It's clearly part of the plan.
More equity, though? That's,
No. I mean, let's be clear. They have already raided more than $8 billion out of superannuation in this government, and they want to raid even more. They see the $1.5 trillion as a bit of a piggy bank to try and save Wayne Swan from his own fiscal incompetence.
Do you think that there is room for greater equity in the subsidising of Australians' retirement?
What I believe is that the Labor Party has built up a terrific superannuation nest egg for ordinary Australians, and it's a bit rich for Kelly to suggest that when in fact the Liberal opposition is proposing to attack the low income superannuation offset, which would mean that 1 in 3 Australian workers, several million Australian workers, would be paying up to $500 a year in extra taxation.
Let's have your response to that on that specific issue of the low income tax offset.
This is actually attached to the mining tax. You know, this is apparently costed by attaching it to the mining tax. And of course, the mining tax raises no revenue. The government refuses to release the figures on how much revenue is raised by the mining tax. We know it's zip. It cannot be afforded. This government has been all over the shop.
The tax offset still just was introduced to Parliament this week.
But it's been taken off, put in, taken off. This government has been entirely inconsistent on this point, and they're trying to maintain a fiction that this will somehow be paid for by the mining tax, where there is no money to pay for it.
So you support the idea if the mining tax was...
There's no money to pay for it.
But the idea of the low income tax offset that they're talking about?
This government, they talk about a magic pudding. I mean, where is the money actually coming from in these circumstances?
It is happening. Low income
it's funded
Australian...
by the mining tax, and the mining tax raises no revenue.
Okay, Kelvin's response. Let's hear it.
This is something which the Labor government is giving to Australian workers, the low-income Australian workers. It is something which the opposition says they will scrap. So it is very clear that they intend to attack the superannuation earnings of low-income workers.
No, well, let's be absolutely clear. This government, until only yesterday, they wanted to claim that anybody who had $1 million in superannuation was rich, which meant that, according to different actuarial models, anity who would have interest payments on that, you know, when they retired, was earning around about $38,000
that was all speculation. The Prime Minister ruled it out.
To $50,000 a year. So their definition of who they term as rich is really quite extraordinary. This government is attacking the middle class of Australia. It's doing it from everything from you know, all of the carbon tax, where we've seen them attack people on incomes of $50,000, and they're continuing to do it through superannuation.
Finally, Jason Clare, the Minister for Home Affairs and Justice, and the Minister for Sport, Kate Lundy, will be holding a news conference in a bit over an hour from now, 10 a.m. Canberra time. As I understand it, some further developments when it comes to these disturbing reports about the infiltration or intended infiltration within Australian sport of organised crime syndicates. Kelvin, this is a big worry, isn't it?
It is, Kieran. I think all Australians would be horrified to think that there can be cheating or corruption or manipulation of sporting contests. All Australians love sport and love to watch a good sporting contest, and we all believe that they're conducted on merit and with integrity. So of course, it's important that government takes action where it can in association with the sporting bodies to stamp it out and make sure that it doesn't happen.
And it's obviously within, you know, well within the sports themselves, their interest to do that because of the quality of their product.
I would agree with Kelvin on that. I mean, you know, we don't want to see drugs in sports. We're not a nation of cheaters. We certainly don't want to give any people any opportunity, particularly organised crime, to actually infiltrate sport and turn something that we absolutely love into something that frankly, you know, we can't be proud of. But we've got a great record on this. The Coalition actually put in place the ASADA, which looks at these regulations and you know, I think, frankly, that it's a good thing.
Kelvin Thomson, Kelly O'Dwyer, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you both.
Good to talk
Thanks.
with you.
Appreciate it. And Kelly, you mentioned